Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Sunday night and it is time for another live stream. Tonight we are going to be talking about this week's release from HDZero, which is this, the AIO15. Very, very nice indeed. We are going to be talking about a hint from Radiomaster about something new that's coming. And no, this one is real. It's not a fake AI hint like we had last time. We're going to talk a little bit about this HelloRadio because they seem to be appearing on the market. Flywoo fixing DJI's design issues. And we're going to cover a few little things on OpenIPC as well, just to sort of update people of where that is. And we will talk about anything else as it goes along. Now, I hope you are all safe and well. I hope you have had a good weekend. I've been flying today a little bit in between the rain showers. You might have seen the review went up for this earlier this week. I struggled to get it finished with the weather, but I did get it done. Obviously, this is the AIO15 from HDZero with the M8. I have to say, I really like this quad. Something, though, quite funny in the review, I said it survived quite well because I hadn't broke the duct. And someone quite rightly spotted, and he went, as you're saying you haven't broke the duct, I actually had broke the duct, I just hadn't seen it. It had only cracked, though, off there. What I hadn't done is completely smash the duct like I could have. However, the AIO15 has released, which again is HDZero, just pushing small and light further than anyone else. And really, none of the other digital FPV manufacturers are taking small and light seriously so far. Surprisingly, even Caddx haven't, because they're a lot more agile than DJI, and you would have thought Caddx would have been interested in pushing this area. They've done a little bit, but I think Caddx have dropped the ball here, because HDZero are just whooping everyone, literally. Which, and what I have to say, and as someone just said, which is a blast at 2S, I love 2S. My big complaint to 1S is it's just over too quickly. Story of my life. However, 2S just has so much power, so much flight time. And that's really, really great to see. So we will talk a little bit about this. But this isn't the only Whoop that's released this week, because Flywoo have released some new 04 based Whoops, but also a number of accessories as well. So we'll talk through that too. It's been an interesting week. Things are beginning to wake up around the world with regards to products and stuff, and we're starting to see that with HDZero obviously releasing this, Radiomaster hinting at a new radio, Flywoo releasing some products as well. You're starting to push forward. Products are starting to hit the market, and these aren't the only ones, that's for sure. But yeah, it's really good to see stuff starting to come through again. Obviously, you've seen the big release from DJI. There's also been leaks this week of the Mini 5. Will this be the Mini 5? I'm losing track. Which will be very cool. Which looks interesting as well. DJI going back to dual props. Doom prices of oil is coming. Yes, there is that. I'm going to steer well away from that this week. But yeah, it's good to see stuff finally move forward. Some news that I can share this week in testing. I've been doing a lot of background testing this week. I can confirm that the Neo camera does work on the DJI 04 standard air unit. I actually tested that this week. Inadvertently, in that testing, I managed to break the cable on my Neo, which is my gimbal cable. I'm going to have to... I've ordered a replacement from China for that. I'm going to be rebuilding a Neo gimbal on the channel in the next week or so. an accidental, the cable was fine, it was the connector on the main PCB side broke. And the reason it broke is actually technically my fault anyway. When I did the initial teardown of the Neo on the channel, those connections are glued. And I broke the glue to put it back on, and I reapplied glue when I reassembled the Neo, which was absolutely fine. Undoing that glue for a second teardown became a lot more challenging, and it ended up actually damaging the connector on the cable, not the board of the Neo. So in normal use it would be fine, but because I somewhat overdid it on the reassembly with glue, so I've had to order a replacement cable, which you can get on AliExpress for like $7, which is great. So I've ordered a replacement cable, and I'm going to have to do that on the channel. Looks fairly simple, to be honest, but we will deal with that on the channel once that arrives in the next week or so. Really, from a DJI perspective, that's all that's really been going on. Obviously, we had that big firmware update a week and a half ago. Not really much news around that. People seem to be quite happy with it. No major issues for 04 have come out of it. 04, 04 Pro, pretty straightforward. Looks pretty good. Everyone seems happy. From a Cadex perspective, it is still all silent. We literally have no news from Cadex at all. We had all these hints of a new digital FPV system coming. We've not got that. We've still not seen the Moonlight 2. We've still not seen the GT2 either. Cadex are sending me my replacement camera that they got wrong very kindly. Thank you. They've allowed me to keep the spare one because they said it wasn't worth sending back. I did offer to send back. I also paid for, at the same time, the Infra 2. Actually, technically, I've come out of this a little bit worse off because I've had to pay $10 postage again. And what I said to them was, if I order the Infra 2, can you just throw the replacement one in the box? And they said yes. So let's see if that actually happens. But I've ended up paying the postage for their error. Not that they intentionally did that, but who knew? We still haven't seen the HDMI VTX module. We haven't. Very little coming out of Cadex at all. Strange. What is interesting, and I can share this as a little bit of an exclusive hint and tip, I've been doing complete teardowns and deep dives into these thermal cameras, especially the little AI boxes that come with them. And I can confirm all of the ones I've tested so far are using artisan-based chipsets. I've actually got full dumps off them, and they are all using artisan-based SoCs for this AI imaging. What this does somewhat do is hint that the relationship with Artisan isn't over, which is good news. That means they still have a relationship with Artisan. They're still using these chips in these little AI boxes. These chips are basically image processor SoCs designed for CCTV, which have this AI low light capability. And they are doing a good job. I'm not seeing anything bad in it at all. In fact, I am blown away with how good they work. But what they are is all still based on Artisan. So Cadex's Artisan relationship is still very much alive. What that means for the next generation of FPV systems, who knows? I have a feeling what they might be doing, but let's wait and see. That might be around using Artisan's latest chipset, which is a bit more like DJI in the sense of they've separated off main SoC and image processing and RF, because I keep upsetting Junus and the team with this, saying bigger arm cores. if you take DJI and Avatar, it's got lots of different ARM cores for doing different things. It's got big ARM cores for the main OS, and it's got smaller ARM cores for the real-time OS and other things. But their new chipset really is like DJI's modem. It's just a modem. What is incredibly interesting about Artisan's new chipset is that they've actually managed to combine the modem and MUX chip into one, which is even more than DJI have done. And for those who don't know what I mean by that, let me just find my mouse pointer. If I just go to FPV Wiki a minute and show you guys this, if we just have a look on DJI a minute first, very quickly, doesn't matter if it's 03 or 04. 03 is probably going to be a bit easier because it doesn't have the heat shield on it. When you look at DJI, you have you got your video processing SoC, you've got your P1 modem, and then you've got your RF MUX at the front, the mixer. It's actually creating the 5 gigs RF waveform. So they are still those three needed, and then that goes into the PAs. On the original DJI FPV system, you just had that and that without that. If we look at Avatar, it's still very much the same. So if we go into... let's have a look at a VTX. HD VTX. It's the same situation. So when you look at the VTXs, they all have the same setup. What you have is it's that chip there under that sticker, which is annoying. Let me find one of the other ones. Here we go. So on this one, you've got the main chipset and then the MUX over here before the power amplifier. What Artisan have been able to do is combine this into their new modem, which is incredibly interesting. Incredibly interesting indeed. Which in theory, if they're still going to need an extra chip for running the main OS, but it's still a very interesting development. So let's see what they do. I bet they have some MMQ of the Artisan to hit, which is why they use the chips. You still need the chip. So there's nothing really... It's not that it's got huge horsepower. Don't overestimate how much processing is in this. There are loads of SoCs out there for image processing. They all are needed if you're going to output digital. On the VTX, on the digital side, that chip is built into the main SoC, the ISP it's officially called. On the analog ones, they're using digital cameras with a ISP and then an analog digital to analog converter. So they still need that ISP whatever happens. What you then, though, do is choose what ISP you want, and they're using some of these which has this AI improvements. They're all designed around CCTV applications because they're all designed to try and enhance night images. It's not that it's crazy horsepower. It's quite a bit, but it is... You still need that ISP because otherwise they have to use an analog camera because like basically every analog camera has an ISP on the back of it. Every analog camera has, because an analog camera is a digital sensor which needs to convert to analog. So the chip on the back of any analog camera is the ISP. All they're doing in these infrared cameras or these night cameras is moving the ISP onto the board, and there's no ISP on the back of the camera. And that's what they're doing. But you still need the ISP. You have to have something to process the image. Are the Walksnail 1S VTX and Nano V3 the same board? They are very similar. There are some they did combine them at one point. So, look, that's where we're at with CADX, but there isn't really a lot of news. That's the situation. We wait and see. Let's hope something releases. Yeah, let's just wait and see what happens. So, to get on with the show, this week, obviously, we're going to start with HDZero because this week we had the release of this, which is actually a quad. If we go to the overhead, which is the M8 Freestyle HD from happy model. But what's really special about this is the fact that it is running the new HDZero AIO15. Now, this is an incredibly cool release, I have to admit. If we go to the desktop, let me just find my correct folder. Here is the board itself in great detail. It is based, obviously, off the HDZero analog HD cameras that they're still using. But I have to say, I think this is a fantastic release. Again, an incredible work of engineering. You know, flight control, ESC, HDZero, and Express ELRS. And it's not just, you know, it's a full-fledged Express ELRS receiver. It really is very, very cool indeed. It is using the Lux camera, which I think looks great. I really like how these analog HD cameras look. I really, really do. If we hop to the next image, you can see the back of the board there. It's obviously based on, flip him around, it is based on the G473 SX1280 chipset on Express ELRS. Just incredible packaging. And again, HDZero are the only ones pushing this market forward. No one else seems to be doing it. I fully approve of this kind of thing. I really do. I think Carl is you know, we know HDZero's strong point isn't up against DJI or even Avatar for out-and-out image quality, even in 1080p 30. However, no one else is coming near on this. And then you add in HDZero on racing, and you add in HDZero in whoops. Whilst they do have a bit of a gap in the general FPV world for some people, racing and whoops, no one's coming near. They're running away with it. TS13 FPVC, do I ever see Walkstone or DJI being able to do what HDZero has done with the AIO? I think it's very difficult for them to scale down this far. That is the big problem, DJI. Technically, 04 has a flight controller on board. And it's not that it has a flight controller on board. That's me saying it wrong. That main SoC on that 04E unit is what runs DJI's flight control on the Avata 2, the Neo, and others. That doesn't mean you can install Betaflight on it. It's a completely custom setup. Could you see a 1S board, or could you see the DJI 1S board with flight control and ESC? I think it's going to be very, very hard. Very, very hard. As close to impossible. Cadex have the best shot at it because I think they'd be more interested in it. I think it would be very difficult for them to integrate. Where HDZero benefits is that whilst it is a 3-chip solution, their chips are much smaller. You know, HDZero is still a 3-chip solution. You've got the main SoC, the DM6300. You've got the DM5680. You've got their image processor. Remember, this chip here, the tech point, is having to convert the analog HD camera into digital. They've still got to have a converter because on the digital VTXs, they use the Texas Instrument MIPI converter. So they can't get rid of that chip. They have to have a converter either way. I remember talking to Carl and one of his he said, I don't think he meant mistake, but integrating the MIPI converter or the analog input into the main chipset would be something he would want to do next time, rather than having to have this external chipset. He has to have it whether it's on MIPI or analog HD. And then you've just got your main power amplifier. So HDZero has a bit less size to it than the others, and that's how they've been able to cram it down. And if Carl does produce something new that brings that into there, for instance, or at least into there, then who knows what we'll see. You know, this is Carl's equivalent RF baseband, the front-end chipset. This is the main SoC. Anything is possible. It really is. It's really, really cool. And only credit for this, because I love aircraft like this. I really, really do. And this is what sets HDZero apart. And It's available from the HDZero website, depending on the country you're in on price. You can get it as the Whoop. Let's just go down to the boards. You got the new AIO15. It's $109. I have seen some comments from people saying, what if you're being a fet? Look, I have seen close to no reliability complaints on the AIO5. I can't comment myself for the AIO15 because it's way too early. But I am encouraged by what I've seen. 126 in the US. Yes, you are going to get stung. But if you want the smallest and lightest, that's what you're going to pay. Really cool, though. It's the price you pay to get that lightness. What are the chances it can do 4x15? It can. Carl has tested it to 4x15. I've seen the results. Carl would not have put the numbers on there if he hasn't done it. He actually shared with me a bunch of stuff. It's tested to 4x15. You will be shocked at how much testing HDZero do. Honestly, there's stuff I can't talk about yet, but they really, really do test it. They really, really do. I can't think of a single AIO5 that's burned out. If anyone has had one, please let me know. I'm intrigued. But yeah, just really are pushing the boundaries on this stuff. So really pleased that, you know, HDZero has quite the stack of products now. They really do. Yeah, really good. Really, really good. The Freestyle V2 is great. It is a very good VTX. I was flying it today, although I got a broken antenna on mine. I burnt two for... someone's burnt them. Okay, at least we know it happens. I haven't really seen many comments on it, so... Mentions of version 2 goggles coming in July. I can't comment on companies' unannounced future releases that I can't comment on. Other than that, but I also fired crazy. I don't care about flying in the wet because I replaced the FETs myself. Someone asked about Moonlight 2. What's a Cadex with the Moonlight 2? Honestly, I don't know. Look, Cadex don't... Look, my relationship with Cadex is like as over as it can be. Fair play to them for reaching out when I put that little bit of a video out just to say they put the wrong product in the box. And that wasn't done to have a go at them. It was just, I thought I'd share it with you because that's what happened. I will share that. Doesn't matter who it is. If it happened, if I bought something, which I bought, and there was a problem, I'll share it. That's the truth. But look, I don't think Cadex... I don't think Cadex will be talking to me again from a release perspective. All I'll do is the products will be reviewed exactly the same as they were before. And this is where I have to be fair to Cadex. Cadex were always great when I was critical. I didn't get an email saying, hey, we didn't like what you said. They just said nothing. But I will then say they threw it all at me when they melted down over my other video. So... they were stacking it up in a bin. But I don't know what's happening with this FPV system. What I would like to think, and here's something, and if my kicking off has done one thing good, let's hope it's pushed them to take 2 or 3 steps back and stop releasing crap before it's ready. If anything has come good from that, is that my criticism of them over the contracts, over the way they behave, has pushed them to take a step back and make sure it's ready before release. And if it has, then it was worth it, because there has been too much half-baked, half not right. So, look, let's wait and see. That's all we can do. But I don't know about this FPV system. They were shouting it from the rooftops until they've gone quiet. That would mean those Walk Snail supporters will never get new products anymore. Look, Cadex still deliver a fairly good system. It's not perfect. My biggest issue is the promises they don't make. Oh, sorry, the promises they make, they don't keep. Not the promises they don't make. If they didn't make promises, we'd be all right. But let's hope, look, if they release whatever this new thing is, we'll look at it, you know. And here's where I'll be clear and honest as well. If they release a new FPV system and say, hey, this isn't to compete with Avatar, this is for new users only, then I'll review it in the idea of it's for new users. I'm not going to go, oh my God, this is terrible compared to Avatar HD, no one should buy this. You have to review it in the market it's aimed for. If Cadex release it and say, this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, it's going to do all of this stuff, and it doesn't do half of it, then you're critical. And that's how you have to take it. And they had laid the path for this being something new or cinematic, which somewhat hints latency is an issue when you listen to it. If you're saying it's for new users or cinematic users, that somewhat hints latency to me, because they're struggling on that. But let's see. Let's wait and see. At the end of the day, Cadex being in the industry is a very, very good thing. My T3 video will go live on the channel probably tomorrow. The T3 review video for this thing will go live tomorrow. Just to give you a warning, it is an hour and a half. It's a re-edit of the one I shared on my Discord because there's a few things I needed to add. It is an hour and a half review because that's how much I've had to go into in this. And at the end of that video, I'll tell you now, when it comes to price, when you compare that and Avatar HD, they're very much the same. And from a price perspective, and Avatar is a no-brainer in that regard. DJI will still be at the pinnacle. Look, no one's getting near 04. 04 is like leagues ahead at the moment. But we're just going to have to wait and see what comes from Cadex. That's all we can do. That's it. So, next, I want to talk about Radiomaster. Now, this is an unusual position for me because I have very simple rules. Look, I work with companies now and again. Radiomaster is a brand that I work with, as are many brands. HDZero is another brand I work with because they sent me this. When a manufacturer sends me a product for review and say, hey, we're going to release it on this date, it doesn't matter if I've been asked to sign an NDA or not. I won't release any info until the embargo date. They don't have to say to me, you must sign this not to discuss it. I've never signed an NDA with HDZero, yet I would never talk about a product before its release date. Now, people may say to me, but wait a minute, you did all of the leaks around DJI 04. And yes, I did, because I wasn't involved. So when I'm not involved, I'm free to talk about it in any way I wish. When I'm involved, I will always honour the embargo that the manufacturer said. If they say they're going to release it on, I don't know, whatever the date was, the 20th for this, then I won't show it or talk about it or even mention it until the 20th. That's how it works. If people ask me a question like, have you heard about this rumoured thing? If I know about it, I'll usually skit past it. What's really interesting about the situation I'm in here is Radiomaster have hinted at a new product, which is in itself very unusual, and I know nothing about it. So I'm free to talk about it, which is cool for me, because usually I'd be sitting here going, next subject. So Radiomaster have put up a hint up on Instagram, and it is this here, that there is a new radio coming. And as I've said, I know zero. So we can speculate all day long on this one. I'm free to talk about what I want. So The future is here. One step ahead, July 2025. It's going to be faster, stronger, smoother. And that's what they're showing. Now, this looks incredibly interesting when you start looking at it. Now, I think we can all take some guesses. Where they're talking about faster, I don't know. Probably H7. H7 is very much in the push forward now in the radio space. I'm going to guess it's H7. I don't know, but that's what I would expect. You can see that there looks to be a color screen on the bottom of it as well, which is very nice to see. Stronger. I don't know what they mean about stronger. That is interesting. Stronger is something I have no idea about. Plastics? I don't know. Metal. Could it be a metal casing? CNC? Ooh, full CNC metal casing. We've had full CNC gimbals. Could we have a full CNC metal casing? That would be cool. I don't know. It's all speculation. Carbon fiber? Could it be real carbon fiber? I don't know. What I would say is their radios are not particularly brittle. Trust me, I've dropped them enough. I wouldn't say the plastics are bad, but yeah. So look, we've got that. And then they talk about smoother, which looks like gimbals, but it also looks like a new set of gimbals as well. So that's the stronger. Let's get in on the stronger. Let's. Now, that does look like carbon fiber, but I don't know. It doesn't look like real carbon fiber. It looks a bit like the usual fake carbon fiber. Something I will notice is it looks very round. A lot rounder than even the Boxer. The Boxer's not quite that round. Quite interesting. Looks like a Boxer 2 with colour screen and a built-in antenna. Boxer Max had a carbon cover. It does. I have one. Very interesting. Not seeing any grips on the sides, though, are you? You know, you'd normally have grips down the sides here. So, yeah. Very, very interesting indeed. And then we've got smoother. Now, this looks like gimbals. Something I noticed is, and this could just be the image, they do look quite close together, those gimbals. But that could be me. I not necessarily interpret that as absolute fact, but they do look quite close. They're not that close in the Boxer, but that could just be the scaling of the image. They're not AIO1s. They look different. You've got screws on the front here. Very, very interesting indeed. But this is an incredibly interesting one because, as I've said, and Andy RC has just said the same, he knows nothing about it either. So, yeah. Cool. I can talk. That's interesting. That's really, really interesting. I can't remember Radiomaster ever releasing, in my time, a hint like this. I don't remember the last time they've done anything like this. So, new pocket, it could absolutely be a new pocket. We don't know the scale. So this is the problem. Assume we don't know the scale of it. Pocket Pro, cool idea. Is it Boxer size, pocket size? I don't, genuinely, no idea at all. But yeah, July. Don't know in July. The antenna handle is telling on width. Yes, it is. actually. And if you assume that's a 2.4 gig antenna, good spot. Very good spot indeed. Duncan has just gone in. It's going to be called the Pocket Pro Max 25 Ultimate Black Founders Edition. Absolutely. I think it'd be full-sized. Unless it's got 868-900 built in, which could mean it's a bigger antenna. Remember, if it's using the LR chipset, it could have a dual-band antenna, which means that could be designed for 900 megs. So take that into account as well. We just don't know. Built-in Nomad. If it's the LR chipset. So it could be that that antenna is actually that wide. Who knows? We're going to have to wait and see. So, Radiomaster teasing us with something new. Where's the info? I know nothing. Pocket with Gemini would be dope. Very cool indeed. Well played, Radiomaster. Unusual. $250 milliwatts? Who knows? Who knows? Whilst we're talking about radios, before we move on from radios, I also want to move on from Radiomaster and talk about this company. Now, this company is called HelloRadio. Now, I don't know who these are. Their website, you know, they're making, let's be realistic, clones of TX16, all of the names. Well, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But they also have this V14 radio, which is released. Now, I don't know if this is the tea lady from Jumper has left and decided to set up their own radio company or something like this. Looks an awful lot like that Jumper, the 20. Which one is it? Is it the T20 from Jumper? I think it's the T20. It looks an awful lot like the T20. I don't know if, you know, the tea lady ran off with the plans. Yeah, the T20. Whoever they are, tea lady, bin man decided to get some shells out the bin and make a radio. They're making more and more radios. Now, I want to have a good look at one of these inside. I don't know how interested people are in these. Is anyone interested in me buying one of these to talk about? Because I'm not sure it's worth it. Because what does this offer over Radiomaster or Jumper? If we just talk about that a minute, I just don't know how I could sit here and say, well, you should go and buy this. I believe it runs EdgeTX. This one does, EdgeTX. I thought the HelloRadio TX16 was just a reband. They got some nice colours. They've got RDC 90. Do you know what? I find it hard to believe this isn't Jumper. The tea lady from Jumper. The factory from Jumper. Just duck. This is very Jumper. RDC 90. Hall. This is how Jumper been laying out their radios as well. I just, yeah, it smells of being Jumper to me, I'll be honest. You see that, or someone's moonlighting at the factory. Now, I have had a look through YouTube for some videos. I've been trying to find if anyone's done reviews on them. Squadding Quads has, but he doesn't tear it down. He gives a nice overview of the radio. But he doesn't, and he shows some flying. This Chinese site did a bit of a video on it, showing you the case. I can tell you now, that case even looks like the Jumper box. That even looks how Jumper ship their radios. It does look quite nice there, I have to say. Yeah, the Odyssey 90 pot gimbals. Yeah, it smells of... The only reason, though, what makes me suspicious it's not Jumper is the fact it's got CNC gimbals. Jumper don't even have full CNC gimbals yet. So that's the only thing that makes me wonder, is they've actually got, from the look of it, full metal gimbals. Hello, Captain Bry, I hope you're well. It does look quite nice. Yeah, it looks quite robust. Someone just said that, yeah. It's like the CNC down here. See that? Is that full metal or is that plastic inlaid? I'm suspicious now that that's not metal. That's metal. Someone said plastic. Yeah, I'm suspicious now. And this person here giving you a good look over it. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. I don't know why. Oh, yeah, he does turn it on over here in the end. There you go. Is it an OLED display on this, which makes me laugh? One of these OLED displays that look... I tell you what I do like. Look at the gimbal lights. It comes with gimbal lights. Now, I have to say, I like that. I do have to say... I do like that. But I don't know, are they CNC? Yeah, I know. Look, and then you can set the colors permanently. Oh, it's flashing. Does it have, I wonder, fully programmable buttons? You could put the play. Oh, no. Does it have full MCU controllable buttons down here? Are these able to be fully controlled, I wonder? I tell you what, that's not a bad looking radio. There is also another video. Let me just show you the last one. And this one looks at the yellow one. No one tears it apart, though. I wish someone would tear it down. So you're looking in the back. Does look quite cheap from the back, doesn't it? So let's have a look. Oh, were they? You went over the gimbals then. I'm suspicious that's plastic. Yes. Oh, yes. Come on, that's plastic. Right. That's definitely plastic. The V14 Pro and the Max R9 has full metal CNC. Okay. Very interesting. That's what the link says. It looked a bit unfinished to me. But yeah, so look, incredibly interesting. Buying them, when you look on AliExpress, you're talking Pro Black, R9 Black, R9 Red, V14 Max Black. So what are the specs saying the differences? So if we go down, so we want the Max or the Max R9 or the Max for the CNC. And you got the OLED on that model then. It's not cheap. It's not a cheap radio. V14 Pro. So it was the Pro. So the Pro is plastic. So we want the Max. Max R9. £191. Interesting. Interesting that when you look at the images, it looks to be the same image, and that I wonder, because they're showing the same gimbals on all of them. I am suspicious of that, to say the least. Very interesting. Where will HelloRadio be in 2 years? Yes, and that is the problem. But very interesting. Yeah, metal gimbals are about $120 in themselves. So, but look, I'm intrigued about the radio. I might reach out to them and see if I can get them to send one. I am intrigued. Definitely intrigued about the radio. I like the LEDs. Yeah, very interesting indeed. Very, very cool. So, that's it from radios. Obviously, we're going to wait for Radiomaster. Read Oscar's review when you got time. I try not to read other people's reviews if I'm going to do it myself, because I don't want to be influenced. It smells like jumper. For latency testing, could you test the latency of the Carex infocamera family, and especially if it's variable latency? I've heard the darkening gets the higher latency. I would expect that to be true, but I haven't done the latency tests yet, but I will do. In my tests so far in the dark, I've seen nothing shocking on the latency. I've tested it in complete darkness and doing my magical finger test, which is that. I'm not seeing anything crazy. I'm certainly not seeing anything that I would go, oh my God, that latency's got very, very high. No, I'm not going to say it won't go 40, 50 milliseconds. That's possible because my fingers don't really... I can see 40, 50 milliseconds a little bit, but I didn't notice anything crazy, if you see what I mean. It is a very powerful test. Oscar says they basically copied Radiomaster. They had the XC14 and now this. Yeah. But I need to do the proper latency test on it. I will do them as part of the testing. I've stopped my video a minute waiting for the version 2 to come. My first test, anyone who watches me test a new FPV system, the first thing you'll see is me do that. Because you can tell very quickly. If you've got an eye for it, you'll instantly go, that looks all right. I'm not saying it's 18 milliseconds versus 35 milliseconds, but what I can definitely tell you is it's sub 30, 40 milliseconds versus 80 to 100 milliseconds. So you'll be there going, Jesus, that's high, or no, that's okay. But Yeah, I will happily do the test on it. I've stopped producing that video until I get the V2 now, because Cadex have released the V2. So I'm going to do that as a set of videos. I will do the zoom camera first. I am incredibly impressed with that zoom camera. Yeah, it's either that or that's or I'll usually do that. A very quick one to test is also that. I'll do that. Well, you can't see that because you can see on display how quick your finger hit. And what I'm looking for is the point where my finger hits the deck. That's what I'm looking for. Update your finger firmware. Yeah. But you get an eye for it. You do get an eye for, Jesus, that's slow. Or you get an eye for, it. That looks all right. Because what you're always looking for first is, how does it look? Oh, Jesus, that's bad. Or, okay, that's all right. Then we'll move on to the latency testing. Because what you're really looking for is, Jesus, that's bad. Yeah. So, that is the radios. The next thing I want to talk about quickly is OpenIPC. Now, tomorrow I'm going to be releasing my hour-and-a-half review of the T3 system. And in that video, I mention a number of times the OpenIPC. I also put a video out a week ago on the differences, or 2 weeks ago, between the digital FPV systems. And something I've sort of been notified of, and I've had a bit of a read on this now, is there seems to now be a expectation, and I'll be honest, I haven't been told this officially, and if this is the case, I would suggest the project puts a bit of a message out on this, but there's a bit of an expectation now when discussing OpenIPC that you actually discuss or mention the flavor of OpenIPC, in the sense of OpenIPC is the firmware on the camera, and then it is coupled to the RF link element. Now, all of OpenIPC pretty much up to this point has been OpenIPC with WFBNG. WFBNG is the RF element of OpenIPC, which is handling the RF encoding, the translation layer, the transmission layer, and over the air with the Wi-Fi adapter. So OpenIPC is the IP camera software communicating with WFBNG, which transmits over the air. Now, the reason this has got a bit more pronounced is there's actually a new encoder bit of OpenIPC, but it's not OpenIPC available, so I'm even falling into my own rabbit trap there. There's what's called APFPV. Now, this is something that's been released. It's a new firmware which consists of OpenIPC and this APFPV RF link. And APFPV, I'll just show you this video from Daddy. I'd suggest checking it out. APFPV is conforming to full Wi-Fi. It's not doing what WFBNG is doing, is that MAC layer modification. It's doing full video over Wi-Fi. And in fact, as it's doing full video over Wi-Fi, it's fully compatible with all of the Wi-Fi adapters. You can use any of the Wi-Fi adapters. And in fact, if you use the Radiomaster as a ground station, you don't need to connect an external Wi-Fi adapter. You can actually use the Wi-Fi adapter that's built into the Radiomaster. Now, obviously, this is not going to have the same low latency potentially as OpenIPC, but what it means is you can fly directly with a tablet, because you're basically creating an ad hoc network between the quad and your Wi-Fi device, and it's communicating across. It is OpenIPC with fully Wi-Fi compatible RF link. And that's OpenIPC plus APFPV. So this in itself is quite interesting. Haven't tried it myself yet. I don't know what it's like. But but it allows you to fly with like a tablet or anything like that without having to have too much dedicated hardware. It's really designed for beginners, new users, things like this who don't want to mess around with a ground station and all of the hassle of that. But what it does mean is there's going to be some confusion around OpenIPC. In the past, when we've discussed OpenIPC, it's been as an overall project, or OpenIPC FPV, which was technically OpenIPC and WFBNG, which is the wireless link element, using the modified Mac layer driver. Whereas now, this is full Wi-Fi. So when it comes to discussing OpenIPC moving forward, things sort of get a bit complicated. You've got to now separate out OpenIPC, which is the firmware running the main camera software, and then you've got to mention and at least go, well, today I'm flying OpenIPC with WFBNG, or I'm flying OpenIPC with APFPV, or whatever else comes in the future from a RF link handling perspective. And it is a bit complicated, but it isn't, and it somewhat makes sense, but it doesn't, because you could have someone going, oh, I'm flying OpenIPC, but it's not very good. But is that OpenIPC APFPV, or is that OpenIPC WFBNG? Again, it all gets rather complicated and messy. To be completely fair, OpenIPC has never been the entire stack, but it was headed under the entire stack up until now. And it was always assumed that when you're talking about OpenIPC, you're talking about OpenIPC with WFBNG. Like, if you take Ruby, Ruby isn't... it's using a very old version of WFBNG. Before it was WFBNG. I can't remember what it was called before that. It gets quite complicated. So I wanted to highlight it because it is interesting. It is an interesting development. APFPV. It means you can fly straight over Wi-Fi, use a smartphone with Wi-Fi, use a tablet with Wi-Fi, use a Redaxer with Wi-Fi, and you're fully conforming to Wi-Fi. Whereas WFBNG is the modified Mac layer driver, allowing, I'm not going to say full control because it isn't, but you're within the walled garden of the Wi-Fi PHY layer, but you are modifying how you're sending the data over the link outside of the usual Wi-Fi specification. Ruby's Wi-Fi broadcast, yes. And if I'm right, if I remember, someone remind me, what WFBNG is a fork of Wi-Fi broadcast. If I remember, Ruby is using a fork of Wi-Fi broadcast, and WFBNG is a fork of Wi-Fi broadcast. They bit like Beta Flight, Clean Flight, all of that mess, and they both go back and split that way. If I remember, it's been a while since I read this bit. So, quite interesting. We haven't really seen anything from the OpenHD side of things. It'll be interesting to see. OpenIPC does have a new firmware coming, apparently. Mario has posted it on his site, which is fully configured out the box. It is a criticism that I've had. I've still not had a comfortable, flyable OpenIPC system. I have still yet to fly it with anything that I believe is acceptable. As I will share in tomorrow's video, the T3 is on another level from it just working perspective. And that's where OpenIPC needs to get to. But I'll be interested in seeing that when it happens. But the T3 isn't perfect, and I'm not even sure it's recommendable based on price. There's also a lot to talk about on the marketing claims as well. There is a reason that video is an hour and a half long. It's a biggie. But yeah, I did... it's not... I wouldn't argue it's not finished. It works fine. There are bits of it that don't work at all. I wouldn't say it's not a not finished product. It's not got everything they've said, but it works as an FPV system fine. It absolutely flies. Yes, it's got high latency, but it absolutely flies. I can't get the Wi-Fi to work. My DVR doesn't work on the VTX, although it did when I first got it. And I can't confirm. When you need it to work, it fucks up. I've not experienced that. I found it. I have flown it 50, 60 times, and it's worked perfectly every time. I've had no issues with reliability on it at all. Zero issues. And I mean zero. Genuinely, turn it on, it works. There are some terrible choices in it. How's the range? Look, I'm not going to sit here and do a range test. It's been fine in my testing. I won't even publish range data because I'm in the UK. You're only allowed to fly within visual line of sight. Other people can range test it. It's been flown to 40, 50, 60 kilometers. There's no issues with range on it. But it isn't good value when you consider it's the same price as Avatar HD. Mine has been perfect from a reliability perspective. Absolutely perfect. Link stability and flyability. Perfect. However, there are real question marks over a number of the claims in the marketing material. And there are things that don't work, like the Wi-Fi functionality. Mine doesn't work on Wi-Fi at all. The Wi-Fi smartphone streaming. I can't even see a Wi-Fi network. And, yeah, there's some... Yeah, it's hard to recommend for one reason. And here's the biggie. For basically within $10, you can get an Avatar dual antenna VTX and the VRX module. And the great thing with Avatar is it will do low latency FPV if you want it to. And you can go and buy yourself a set of FPV goggles at any time and then have a fully fledged FPV system. What is really difficult about the T3 system is the VRX module. It's clunky. It doesn't have good connections. It doesn't have HDMI out. You're having to use a USB-C to HDMI adapter. It doesn't have a tripod mount. It's heavy. You can't mount it on goggles. It's got horrible controls, and it doesn't have a built-in DVR as far as I can tell. So it isn't ideal for most general FPV. And it doesn't have MSP DisplayPort. It supports MSP, but it doesn't have full MSP DisplayPort OSD. So there are, you know, there are quirks to it. I think you've got to separate finished versus bad design choices. From an RF link perspective, I have to say I am incredibly impressed. It blows open IPC in my testing out the water, and I mean out the water. Its low signal behavior is a little sketchy, although it recovers really quick. Really quick. But it's too expensive compared to Avatar, and Avatar makes more sense every day. If it was $80 to $100 less than Avatar, then I think it could be incredibly interesting. There is, though, a subset of people it could be good for if you want Mavlink support over the air, or you want that Ethernet pass-through. But there are other systems that offer that as well. And Cadex could easily do it. There's no reason Cadex can't do Ethernet. Software is clunky as hell too. But look, it's a big video. So please do check it out tomorrow. It's interesting to see another player. That is for sure. Couple of questions. Right, I've just updated on HD Halo flying tomorrow. Congrats. Someone said earlier they were flying their 04 on the Integra, and it seems to be perfect now, or good now, as it was on 03. It does. Someone just said here, is 04 Pro or Goggles 2 working great now? Yes. Yeah, it'll be fine now. I have posted the video for my Patreons. The video is on for the Patreons. That video is already live. I posted it today. It should be there for the Patreons already. Do you record with the 04 Lite and new wide field of view lens? We're going to come on to that now in a minute. If someone's a Patreon and they can't see the video as I put a post up today, please let me know. Yeah, it should be there. I put the post up earlier. It's a big video. Right. This now leads us on to Flywoo. So, Flywoo have released a number of new products, and it isn't just fixing DJI's problems. They've released some new Firefly 04 quads, but they've also released a wide angle kit for the 04 ear unit. Now, it is fair to say this doesn't solve everyone's problems, because if you're flying something like this, which I've just taken the 04 ear unit out of, this lens adapter might not actually fit. At least you're going to have to do some modification. Now, Flywoo hinted about this over the weekend. Their website isn't working great. They have released some new things. So we first of all have Firefly 18 1S Baby version 3 quads for DJI 04. Look at the purple one. What is the difference between these two? Why are there two different quads? Ah, we got the 16 and the 18. So we got the 16 and the 18. So the 18 is a 2-pop quad. Version 3 04 tiny drone. This is very cool. 1S. It includes the wide angle lens from the look of it. It is insanely small. I might have to order one of these. They've managed to cram him, and they've put in a voltage regulator as well for the 04 to allow it to run at lower voltage. It's got a voltage booster in it. From the look of it. The A30 plug. This looks really cool. 1S battery mount. So it's STM32F405. Very cool indeed. Optimized for DJI 04. So, equipped with Flywoo's 04 1S Beck power module, delivering a stable 5V 3A output, even at voltages as low as 2.65 volt. That is gonna, again, fixing DJI's issues. That is freaking cool. Let's be honest with ourselves here. That is really cool. So, what are they saying the weight is on this? I need to confirm. Where's the specs? You'll have to use Betaflight OSD instead of the ear unit. Yeah, you will. What are they saying the weight on this quad is? I'm trying to see. 36 gram. I would have preferred 2S. Here we go, specifications. So, 25.9 gram without 04. What's it with 04 then? Someone is saying 36. Yeah, well, you're talking 12 grams, aren't you? That is cool. That is very, very cool. Next to that, they've also then got the Firefly 16 1S Nano. I'd have preferred 2S. So again, this is even smaller. Crazy, basically showing you the same thing again. Very cool. Same marketing materials they're showing on both. But the big one is this. And this is what Flywoo have done to fix DJI's issues. And that is they have released a lens adapter for the 04 standard camera. Now, they've actually released it for a few of the cameras. However, what this is allowing you to get the same 155 degrees field of view on 04 as you get on the 04 Pro. Now, when you first look at this, it's a bit of a weird looking thing. There are different versions of it. There's a version of it for 03, 04 Pro, and 04. It fits over the top of the camera, so this is the 04 camera. You've got to have their adapter on it first, and then it clips over the front. I think you could shave some weight on this as well. I think you might be able to get the weight down on this a little bit, because I'm intrigued how much of this you need. I think some people may do some trimming on this. That's the 04 Pro version. It allows you to mount on ND filters and lenses, which I don't think we need. What about clarity loss due to stacked lenses? Yeah, we're going to have to understand it. We don't know for sure. That's the 04 version. You can see there the size of it. There's definitely some trimming needed. So that's the 04 version. But basically, 3.7 grams. So it's going to add 3.7 grams to your weight, which is quite substantial, especially when you think about 04's like 12 grams, isn't it? Off the top of my head, 10 grams. But I think you could trim that down a bit. Someone has said they've got a video on YouTube. I haven't seen that yet, so shall we go there? Is it on Flywoo's page? Here it is. Are these 3D printed? Wait a minute. That's 3D printed. Are you telling... Please tell me the official ones are not 3D printed. You are fucking kidding me. Don't get me wrong. So this is 16:9 04 with the wide angle lens. And that's 04 Pro. I don't care about the ND filters. Obviously, the lens is going to be the important factor on the 04 Lite one. Obviously, you're going to be paying for a bit of glass and the print. The reason I'm questioning is it doesn't look 3D printed in all the renders. It looked like a solid plastic piece. So you can see there, that's a real good view of the lens that's in it. So, 04 Lite original lens. So that's the original view on 04 Lite. And then they're pushing it over the top. Oh, there's a little bit of vignetting. I can see it. Should we look at that again? Wait there. So, let's just look at this again. I want to see it again, just so I can get my head around it. So that's that lamppost goes to that part of the van. Okay. I'm going to take a screenshot of that a minute, just so I can have that on my side as a record. Okay. And then watch him push it on. So it pushes on quite easily. Definitely vignetting. So now, yeah, look, that was the line on the original lens there. We were basically there to there is what we were. So it is a substantial increase. A substantial increase in view. Little bit of vignetting. Don't look bad though, does it? Let's be honest. Just to show that again, right? So that's without it, and then we'll look at the footage again. So that's without the lens, and I'm going to ready. 1, 2, 3. Boom. That's with. So in the, I tell you what, that looks round. Still looks round. Just interesting. I'm not seeing any vignetting in the corners on that either. I wonder if it was the way you hadn't pushed it on far enough. That looks really good. Especially that looks. There's some bending on the high rise. Yeah, there is a little. It's acceptable. Yeah, look, there especially. You can see the bending there. There's definitely some warpage and some warpage over this side. But it is minimal. Again, there's a... Unless it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But that is not shocking at all. I tell you what. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. DJI, why couldn't you do this from the factory? Why didn't you go underneath it? That's great. That is freaking great. Just... That's blown me away. Yeah, they'll be vignetted. You can't not have vignetting. It's gonna... Yeah, no, you're not using O4 light to film. This is about... This ear unit was always about having DJI's penetration and RF link performance with O4 style image quality. I don't need it perfect, right? But wait a minute. Look at the you ain't getting that detail in much else. It was always about the penetration, the RF behavior, having O4 in such a small platform. And this isn't cheap, and we'll talk about the price in a minute. I'm ordering one of these in. The picture-picture view has way more distortion than the main. Must be lens correction. Let's try and catch that out, shall we? Could they be applying lens correction? Field of view is different. So let's have a look here. Let me turn myself off, guys. 1 second. Boom. So let's take a screenshot of this. So this is, I've zoomed in too much now. There we go. So this is the field of view from the live shot. So if we now look at this building up here, we've got a warpage up the side. Maybe gyroflow cropping. We might have to find another bit, but what we've got is there to there. Unless he hasn't synced it properly, I don't think he's in sync. I think he's out of sync. Because he's close here, but not here. We're seeing more here than here. Unless he's cropped this video down a bit, just in the bottom corner. I think we're going to have to test. We're seeing more here. Oh, yeah, you're seeing a lot more. That's interesting. So have they cropped it for gyroflow? No, it's in sync. It's definitely in sync. They say it's rock steady. Right. Ah, so it's cropped with rock steady. Okay. That's fine. Oh, yeah, it says at the bottom. I missed that. Yeah. Didn't look like gyroflow. So it's rock steady. But still, then it should still look like 04. I still think, though, that don't look bad. Do they show us any footage, the goggles direct? No, he's not showing us goggles footage. I'm still ordering one. Yeah, you can see there's much more there and there. You can't even see that pillar on that side. Okay, I can accept Rocksteady crop. This will cannibalize 04. That is cool. That there's no getting away from that at all. No getting away from that at all. That is very, very good. That's cool. Now, obviously, this isn't free. It is a product that you have to buy. We'll pause. It is 23 quid. It isn't cheap. Only 5 left in stock on Flywoo's site. Yeah, they're going to sell quick. They're going to sell a lot of these. Well, it has a lens protector too. It does. So let's have a look. What? So it's 12 quid for that bit. So it's 12 quid. So wait there. Wide angle lens and filter set, Flywoo 04 cam shell. Okay. It's only 12 quid for just the lens. But does that include the adapter? Because remember, there is an adapter for the camera already, which is that one. That adapter you also need. Is that included with it or not? Because they're showing that as 2 separate things. Plug and play, compatible with Flywoo, plug and play version, compatible with Flywoo 04 camera case. So do you need the 04 camera case? That's the question. Yeah, it does say TPU, look. Now this, the 04 camera case, right, is this. The 04 camera case is this thing, look. This is, looks like what they're talking about. This. So it goes over the top of, I think it goes over the top of this. Which is that original camera case. Flywoo 04 camshell. Notice it says Flywoo 04 camshell. I think you need the 04 camshell separately. It's a case that goes on case with a lens. I think you need that separately. They're not including that with it. Frequently asked questions. None. No manual. That's my suspicion. You spotted in the image. Yeah, I think it's. I think you will need this. So you would add that to basket, and then you also want to order 04 camera case, which is this. You're going to want that as well to allow it to mount. So not 1S swoop friendly. No, this is, well, I'm not saying you couldn't. And look, people are going to come up with some mods. Does it need this or does it need an adapter of that size? You can print stuff on this. People are going to come up with their own stuff on this. I think you could find an STL of that Flywoo adapter. Yeah, maybe. So you've got the wide-angle lens and filter set 04 camshell. So that other thing is clearly the 04 camshell. Wide-angle lens 03, 04 Pro. Yeah, it definitely looks like it needs the camshell. There's also the new drones. Yeah, we've got those new quads, which, do they come? Does this ship with this? They don't ship it with it. 04ND filter. What's interesting though, look, they're not showing that camshell separately. So I do wonder if they include it. It's not clear. I think so. Look, this is what Flywoo have to offer. I'm going to order one in. I'm going to do it today. In fact, what the bloody hell? 50? No, 15.99. I was going to say 150 quid. Why have I got 150 quid on you? Someone said, is the battery charger new? That's a good question. Yes, it is. There is the Flywoo Easy Power E16 24 1S 2S battery charger. Yes. Nice to see renders. We all love a good render. Seems to be a new battery charger from Flywoo. Quite interesting. What we need is to figure out what lens it is they're using. That would be very cool. How much is postage on this going to be? $5. $26. They use wide angle. Yeah, look, DJI could do this. The problem DJI have is they're not really interested in fixing this stuff. That's the problem. DJI are not really interested in fixing things. There's a reason they use the Neo camera, because they don't have to spend any more money. You know, and that's the problem. So, that is really interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. I can see people playing with this and doing mods. I think you can probably cut that down a bit. The way that goes over, I think there's room for a few mods on this here. I definitely think there's room for a few mods. That's for sure. I will order one in. Thank you, Switzer Lush, for the 50 CHF. I really appreciate the super chat. Thank you for that, my friend. Very nicely to put me on to super chats are more than welcome, but they're not needed for me to answer questions. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Right, any questions? Please do put them in the chat now. We will answer them. That's pretty much the main subjects. Very interesting week. Lots more to come. I'm trying to just get a few videos finished. There is obviously the T3 video is going up. There's also a video on DJI's policy changes that's going up. around buying used drones. You can you need to be careful buying DJI's drones used, and I'm going to talk about that in the video because of their policy change around key refresh. Obviously, there's rumours of the Mini 5. But yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see. Any word on... I've discussed that earlier. I can't talk about unreleased products. Yeah, shipping is a bit of a problem from Flywoo. I scratched up the 04 lens, anything that works, because it's plastic and shite. I melted mine. Have I seen the new GEP RC Moz 7 version 204? No, I haven't. Let's have a look. I haven't heard from GEP for a while. Let's have a look. Not heard of that. I'm assuming that's a 7-inch, is it? Let's have a look. It's a big frame. I don't want quick view. How do I get the fucking website? Is shite. Right, thank you. Interesting. Very similar to the iFlight LR7, which is down here. No, it's not. It's in my car. Very much taking cues from the iFlight LR7 with the plastic side panels. Looks all right. Doesn't look a long frame, though. What the fuck's that big antenna on the back? Is that... That's not... What's that? For? What's that thing? Right, well, that's not got that. Fucking hell's... But there's an XpressRS antenna here. They've sent one to Captain Drone. Let me guess, it's amazing. It's his third leg. Bluetooth tuning, okay. Looks all right. Ah, so you've got 04 unit Pro. Okay. Yeah. Looks okay. Front end looks way... I don't know what all of that is about. Seems a lot of... Yeah, it looks okay. Dual gyros. Does Betaflight or iNav support dual gyros now? I don't think there's proper gyro redundancy in Betaflight yet, is there? Oh, let's not pretend Betaflight a minute. Betaflight's not really aimed for long range. iNav, does iNav have full dual gyro support now? It's been a while. Are they using sensor fuse? If they are, I need to have a look at what they're doing. Whether they... Yeah, okay, I wonder if they're doing the dual EKF approach or multiple EKFs. Like, Pilot. I wonder how they're doing the Fusion. If they're doing the same thing with multiple EKs, and then how you choose which set of data to use and which set you don't. Because the multiple EKF took a long time to get there in ArduPilot. For those who don't know, ArduPilot uses, for multiple sensor fusion, you basically use multiple EKFs. It's almost easier to think about EKFs like its own little flight controller. So one EKF can have its own gyro, one EKF can have its own GPS, baro sensor, compass sensor, and you can actually have multiple EKFs with multiple sensors, and then you fuse the data between the EKFs, and then you choose, do you use EKF1 or EKF2, or do you then take data from bits of them? Depends which way round you do it. It gets very complicated very quickly. I didn't think iNav had moved on that far, but I'll be honest, I haven't looked into it heavily. Multiple sensor redundancy, to a point, I think is pointless in gyro today. Gyros have got so good. Multiple sensor redundancy really, in FPV, is not that important. It really becomes important in camera drones, especially when you're flying around heavy magnetic stuff. That's where the real benefit of multi-sensor fusion comes in. Gyro data generally is very good today, especially when you're flying acro mode. It comes more into play if you're flying, self-level modes. Stabilized, all of them. BL Heli 32. Interesting. After your video last week, I was curious about the low lux HDZero Lux camera. It isn't MIPI. No, it is not. It is analog HD. It is full analog HD. Can it be used with an analog transmitter? No, because an analog transmitter won't support analog HD input. So it is full analog HD. There isn't an official analog HD protocol. That is the problem. Everyone does it slightly differently. I actually had a video I never finished on HDZero's analog HD and how it differs. I probably need to dig that one back out one day and get it finished. It's incredibly interesting when you look at the analog HD cameras on the oscilloscope to see all of the extra TV lines. Because remember, in Palo NTSC, your lines are, you can count the lines, so you can have 576 or NTSC amount of lines. Whereas in analog HD, you've got 1200 lines or whatever it is they're pushing. So it's quite interesting because all analog HD actually does, you've still got the same frame interval. You have to have the same frame interval. So you've still got the same front and back porch because your frame has to be delivered in the same window. So if you're delivering 60 frames a second, you have the same amount of time to deliver that frame, 17 milliseconds. But what you have to do is cram more lines into the same frame time. So what analog HD does is basically cram the lines up. And it's really cool to see. I don't know if I've got the video, the oscilloscope views here. It's really very, very cool. Let me just look at this. The question is, what did I do with that? What did I do with that video? Raw videos, HDZero. AIO5. It might be in the AIO5 folder. Interesting. Let me have a look. Let me just see. No, I don't think I did. I need to figure out what I did with that video. Or at least the footage from it. Interesting. Where did I put that? I hope I didn't delete it because it was quite cool. Let me just, one more second. Let me just see. No. Don't know. I can see me having to do that whole video again. Which will be a shame. Intrigued. New iFight goggles, someone said. Skyviz 479. Yeah, look, I haven't seen them. I haven't tried them. I can't really comment on it. Sorry, I'm just looking. I would usually have always moved... It'll be here somewhere because I don't actually delete anything. I have, but it's what I called it. What's this, I wonder? No, I've got all the spectrum traces, which is, it's really cool. It's really cool when you look at it. I've seen those goggles on the back end of their site like 2 years ago. Yeah, look, the Skyviz 30 frames a second DVR is a bit of a letdown. I don't know. It won't demodulate properly because remember, your goggles are not capable of demodulating analog HD. It's not the transmitters the problem, it's the demodulation of it on the other end because you have a lot more lines than your goggles are anticipating. Analog HD, there's no official standard for it. There are about 4 or 5 standards out there based around CCTV. Analog HD became very big in CCTV, but it's never really, and it's proprietary. All of the chipsets for Analog HD are also generally proprietary as well, which is another problem. Hence the reason it's not really caught on. But it's still 720p, so Carl is pushing out 720 lines. So it's cool. So you're getting, instead of, say, 576 on PAL, you're getting 720. I can't remember if the camera's interlaced off the top of my head. I think they're progressive off the top of my head. So, yeah, look, it's interesting. But, you know, you got to remember, if you take every analog FPV camera, 1200 TVL, 1500 TVL, all those cameras are doing is they're subsampling on board down to, say, 576 in PAL. I'll stick with PAL because it's better. But they're subsampling down to, say, 576 in PAL. You're putting 1200 or 1500 lines in. What the analog HD cameras do is instead of taking it down to 576, it's taking it down to 720. So, I'm guessing it'll be progressive. HDZero doesn't really buffer for the latency. So I'll have to check, but I believe it'll be progressive. But yeah, so you're gaining additional lines is what you're gaining. So look, analog HD had a real opportunity in FPV, but because of the lack of standards around it, it never really caught on. The problem is there's just no good hardware out there for it. Cameras don't support it. There's no real open specification for it. You can do it multiple different ways. It's very cool to look at on the Spectrum Analyzer. I wish I could find the footage because it is very cool on the Spectrum Analyzer. Very cool indeed. But I'm just checking my drive. I've seen that footage and I don't know where I've put it. I just check one other thing. No. It's annoying. What did I do with that, I wonder? Yeah, I'll have an empathy. I'm intrigued what I've done with it. I'm just checking on another drive. I got a few drives. Let me just check in here. That folder's empty. It's not on that one. Very annoying. Very annoying indeed. I hate losing files. What's weird is I would have usually offloaded it. Other? No, not that one. One last check. Let me just look. The problem is I won't really even know what I've called it. And I thought I'd called it AHD, if I'm honest. AHD. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, no, I have a pretty, not a solid structure. Vanished. Right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up there. It's nothing showing, so we're going to end it there. Thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, please consider checking out links to my Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee. We may be back same time, same place next week. You never know. Radiomaster might have told us something. They might not have. Something new might have arrived. Who knows what's going on? Anyway, look after yourself. Stay safe. We will speak to you soon.